Comics Recapped here. Today I'll be explaining a comic called Sentry. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Bob Reynolds had two separate memories. One memory of him is being the Sentry, and the other memory of him is being the Void, the Sentry's greatest enemy. Bob could not become the Sentry without becoming the Void. Rather than becoming the Void, Bob chose to stay away from becoming the Sentry. But now, Bob found a way to address this. He made a world, and in there, he could be whatever he wanted to be. The Sentry was battling numerous shadow creatures in New York. He kept telling Clock to locate the location of the Void so the creatures could be stopped. The Sentry ripped the shadow creatures apart and used his laser beams, but the shadow creatures massed together, forming a colossal monster. Suddenly, Scout, Watchdog, and Sentress rushed to the Sentry's aid and attacked the large monster. Clock then told him that he had located the Void. He was operating inside the moon. The Sentry sped to it while the others fought the shadow creatures. The Sentry reached the moon and smashed towards the center of it. He saw the Void, and without any hesitation, ripped the Void's head off. The Sentry returned to his allies. Scout asked him if he had destroyed the moon. The Sentry told him not to worry about it since it was already repairing itself, the same as everything else in that world. The Sentry stepped inside the confluctor, told his goodbyes, and left. He was now back to being Bob Reynolds. Bob set his watch to count down 24 hours, then proceeded to brush his teeth and get ready for work. Bob worked at a diner where he handled the kitchen with Billy, and Jenny was the waitress. Bob and Billy went to the back to take a break. Billy asked Bob what had happened in his other world last night. Bob told him the shadow creatures attacked. Billy told Bob he wished there was a way to fight with him next time. Bob looked at Billy and told him it was impossible, as Doctor Strange created the pocket reality in his mind so that he could become the Sentry there and the Void would never have to return to the reality. Billy was disappointed as he desperately wanted to be Scout again. Bob apologized and told Billy that his deal with Doctor Strange was that he had to go to the other world once every 24 hours using the confluctor so that the Void would be kept at bay and nothing else. Bob added that although he could become the Sentry, he was still Bob Reynolds most of the time with a miserable life. Billy got up and told Bob that they should get back to work. On his way home that night, Bob was met by Misty in an alley. Misty asked Bob why he hadn't checked in with the ACD. Bob told her that he was sticking with his schedule every day. Misty told him that he needed to check in with the ACD as he was still an imminent threat. Bob said to her that he could control it, that he needed Misty to trust him. Misty gave Bob a pass this time but told him he wouldn't be so lucky next time. Bob reached his apartment, where surprisingly, his door was busted up. He ran inside his apartment, and to his horror, the confluctor was gone. Meanwhile, Scout and Watchdog were waiting for the Sentry's return when Cranio, the Sentry's nemesis, stepped through the confluctor and killed them. The Sentress was trying to contact Clock, telling him that the Void had returned, which was weird because this should have meant that the Sentry had also returned. But when she reached their watchtower, she was shocked to see that the confluctor was destroyed. Sentress was confused, but then she saw Cranio and the bodies of Scout and Watchdog laying on his feet in a pool of their own blood. In a pit of rage, the Sentress charged toward Cranio, but Cranio caught her midair and choked her. Cranio told the Sentress that she wasn't real, that none of it was. He said to her that she was just a thought, an idea. The Sentress sobbed. Cranio then threw her to the wall and punched her face into it. In the real world, Bob barged inside the diner, frantically looking for Billy. He went to the kitchen and told Billy he needed his help. Both men went to the back, and Bob told Billy that the confluctor was missing and that he only had a few hours left before he had to get into his mind and become the Sentry. Billy was shocked and told Bob that he should call Doctor Strange. Bob said he already did, but Doctor Strange was in another dimension doing a mission. Bob also told Billy that he had been calling Tony Stark, but unfortunately, he was not answering. Billy told him that he was just an afterthought, since Bob only asked Bill for help if his big shot friends weren't available. Bob denied it and told Billy that he had always been his closest friend. Bob kept asking Billy for help, but Billy did not know how he would help him. Jenny suddenly burst out of the back door and yelled at them, saying she needed help in the diner. Billy went inside the diner and declined to help Bob. Bob left disappointed. While walking down the street, Misty came from nowhere and cracked Bob in the chin, knocking him out. Bob woke up inside a large room underground, built with iron. Misty and Tony Stark stood before him. Tony asked Misty if she could step out of the room so he and Bob could take it privately. Misty obliged and went out of the room. Tony told Bob that his time had already passed half an hour ago. Tony added that he and Doctor Strange are not always going to be there to control him. Bob asked Tony to give him more time and build a new confluctor. Tony told him he'd build him a new one, and after, they would agree on a new compromise. Bob told Tony that he would leave the bunker and find his confluctor. Tony said to him that he wouldn't allow it. Bob told Tony that he wasn't asking and transformed into the Sentry. Tony was shocked. The Sentry looked at Tony and said that he was no longer Bob and that since the confluctor was missing, it was difficult for him to regulate his power. In the other world, Bob was in a pile of debris when he saw Cranio from a far distance. To Bob's horror, the Sentress was in front of Cranio, battered and beaten. Sentress kept saying she was real, but Cranio raised his arm and fired a beam toward her. Bob saw all of this and was furious. Billy had finished his shift and headed home. When he reached the building, he went up to his room, and inside of it was Cranio, sitting on his couch and using the stolen confluctor. 6 weeks ago, Billy went to a parking lot where Cranio worked as a parking lot attendant. Billy told Cranio to meet him at Hap's diner to talk. He said he had an offer. Cranio was hesitant, considering Billy had been an enemy of his in the past. Billy told Cranio if he wanted to be a parking lot attendant for the rest of his life. Billy then sped off and left. 18 minutes later, Cranio went to Hap's diner to talk to Billy about his offer. The two had a small talk about the past, with Cranio saying that the brains in his helmet were chimpanzee brains, and Billy said it was the Void who destroyed his arm. Cranio went down to business and asked Billy what this meeting was about. Billy said the Sentry was back, which surprised Cranio since he thought the Sentry was dead. Billy explained all about the world created in Bob's mind to keep the Sentry and have the Void at bay. Cranio picked up on this, saying he won't use his mental powers to help Bob. Shockingly, Billy told Cranio he didn't want to help Bob. He wanted to replace him. Cranio was skeptical, but Billy told him they should make the same serum that Dr. Cornelius made, which made Bob the Sentry. Cranio told Billy that he had been attempting to make that serum in the past, but Dr. Cornelius was just too much of a genius that he couldn't replicate it. That was when Billy pulled out Dr. Cornelius's personal notes that he got from Dr. Cornelius's niece. Cranio was mesmerized by it. He immediately scanned the book's contents. Cranio accepted Billy's offer, and they made their way to a storage unit to pick up Cranio's old lab equipment. While Cranio was going through his things, Billy told Cranio that since the Sentry and the Void were inside Bob's head, he had to go in there and kill them there. Cranio agreed and put on his old helmet. The two then laughed. Weeks passed and Cranio was getting closer and closer to completing the serum. Billy, on the other hand, had to pretend to be Bob's friend and work with him all day just like they used to. Billy was getting sick of it until 1 week ago, the serum was finally complete. Cranio told Billy that he hadn't tested it yet and wasn't sure how long its effect will last. Billy told Cranio they had one more thing needed to complete their plan. Billy snuck into Bob's apartment that night while Bob was out. He smashed the door by kicking it and took the confluctor. Billy gave Cranio the confluctor, saying it was the key to entering Bob's mind. Billy assured Cranio that their plan was foolproof and promised Cranio that he'd never let him get caught. Cranio activated the confluctor, and immediately, all of Bob's recent memories came rushing into his mind. Cranio screamed, telling Billy something was wrong. He told Billy he saw Bob in Sentry World. Billy was concerned since it meant if Bob was in there, then the Sentry must be in the real world. Billy quickly took the syringe and injected the serum into him. Billy screamed, feeling immense pain. After a while, Billy calmed down, and the serum's effect had kicked in. Cranio was still screaming. Billy pinned him to the wall and told him to calm down and get back into Sentry's world and take care of Bob. Billy then left searching for the Sentry in the real world. In the Aberrant Crimes Division bunker, the Sentry told Tony that he saw Cranio and he had to find his confluctor. Tony tried to stop him from leaving, but the Sentry ignored him and flew out of the bunker. Tony immediately put on his suit and left in pursuit of the Sentry. He put on additional armor. He caught up to the Sentry and grabbed him. Iron Man threw him into an abandoned shipping yard and pinned him to the ground. Misty asked if he wanted her to call the Avengers or the X-Men for backup. Iron Man declined, saying he'll try to handle this on his own. The Sentry suddenly shot a laser beam on Iron Man, breaking parts of his armor. Billy appeared on the scene. The Sentry was surprised by Billy's appearance. Before they could talk, Billy lunged at the Sentry and punched him on the chin, sending him smashing to the ground. Billy tried to follow up with another punch, but the Sentry blocked it and gave Billy a punch of his own. Billy staggered. The Sentry asked Billy why he became like this. Billy told him that he didn't care about him anymore, that he could transform into the Sentry but he wasn't able to go back to being Scout. Billy told the Sentry that he injected the serum and lunged at him. The Sentry did the same and lunged at Billy. Iron Man called Misty, saying the fight was headed to Manhattan and that he'd be needing the backup after all. Cranio wore the Confluctor again and entered the Sentry world. He saw Bob. Bob asked for Cranio's help, saying what was happening was not normal and was getting out of control. Cranio did not listen to him and instead attacked Bob, but Bob kept dodging his attacks. Meanwhile, the fight between Billy and the Sentry was intensifying. Billy threw haymakers at the Sentry, throwing him to a truck. In the Sentry world, Bob was running out of options. He went to an alley to speak with the Void and asked for his help. Iron Man joined the fray and fired the laser at Billy. Billy told Iron Man that he was not the enemy, he was the Sentry. Iron Man didn't listen to him. The Sentry attacked Billy from behind, but Billy took the upper hand and smacked him in the chin. While all this was happening, Bob had made a deal with the Void. The Sentry let out a scream. Suddenly, the Sentry and the Void merged, transforming into an all-new Sentry. The Sentry's new appearance angered Billy. He told him that he always had to one-up him in every situation. Billy lunged at the Sentry and slammed him to the ground. He attempted to punch the Sentry, but the Sentry grabbed his knuckles and broke his fingers. The Sentry asked Billy if Cranio was the mastermind of all of this. Billy replied saying all of this was his plan from the beginning. The Sentry was disappointed at Billy's answer. He grabbed Billy with dark matter coming out of his fingers. The Sentry apologized to Billy, saying it was his fault Billy turned out like this. The Sentry told Billy he could help him, but he needed to hear Billy ask for his help. The Sentry's arrogance angered Billy, so he fired a laser beam at the Sentry from his eyes. But the laser hurt Billy more than it did the Sentry since it burned his face off. The Sentry placed Billy inside a dark dimension and transformed into Bob. Bob told Billy that power is not for everyone. Billy was down on his knees. Bob told Billy that he could help him, that he could take it all away. Billy accepted Bob's offer, saying he was in so much pain. Bob helped Billy get on his feet but suddenly snapped his neck, killing him in the process. Bob returned to being the Sentry. Iron Man appeared along with the Avengers. Captain America told the Sentry that he needed to come with them. The Sentry refused. So the She-Hulk and Captain America jumped at him, but the Sentry used the shadow powers to wrap the She-Hulk and threw her toward Captain America. Thor and Miss Marvel were next to attack, but the Sentry took care of them instantly. Captain America told the Sentry that the Void was controlling his mind, that he needed to fight it. The Sentry said that he is what he always wanted to be. The Sentry suddenly sped away and crashed inside a building where Cranio was. Cranio hit the Sentry with the Confluctor, which sent the Sentry into the Sentry world. Cranio told the Sentry that no matter how powerful the Sentry was, Cranio could still control his mind. The Sentry suddenly rushed toward Cranio and smashed his helmet, crippling him in the real world. The Sentry saw Dr. Cornelius's book and took it. Jenny suddenly appeared crying. She told the Sentry that he was a monster. The Sentry looked at Jenny and apologized if she saw him that way. The Avengers appeared. Iron Man told the Sentry that they could not let him go. The Sentry said to them that they couldn't stop him, that they didn't have a choice but to let him go. The Sentry suddenly sped away towards the sky, reaching space. She-Hulk asked Captain America if the Sentry was still on their side. Captain America told her that they would find out soon enough.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.